really just a really dominant front three when you're looking at Durden, Cooper, and Marvin Wilson, and they're starting to really play and play to the level that people thought that they could, and they're playing at the level that the coaching staff sort of foresaw, and which was one of the reasons going to that 3-4 was a big deal. Was all three of those guys on the field at the same time is huge. Marvin Wilson is having one of the best years that a defensive tackle has ever had at Florida State.
Hey guys, it's Terrence Nan. You're listening to Hear the Spear, presented by No Game Day. Go Noles.
Hey, what's up? This is Peter Ward, aka P-Dub, in the house. So we're listening to Hear the Spear, presented by No Game Day. Go Live, go Noles.
Hi, this is Charlie Ward, and you're listening to Hear the Spear, Go Noles.
This is Terrell Buckley. You're listening to Hear the Spear, presented by No Game Day. No Bloody.
But perhaps better known as the greatest corner to ever step on a football field, Deion Primetime Sanders.
Great Deion Sanders, my brother. What's going on, man? I could wake up to that greeting every day, man. That was awesome.
Hello, Noles fans. This is former Seminole Derek Brooks, and you're listening to Hear the Spear, presented to you by No Game Day.
James Wilder Jr. What's going on, James?
Thanks for having me on. SSOD, Florida State or Die, and go Noles.
William Bar None Floyd.
Gentlemen, what's up?
What is happening, guys? This is Logan from Hear the Spear, presented to you by No Game Day. Hope y'all are having a great week. Bye week is over. It is Clemson week. We got a lot to talk about, a lot to kind of still recap and kind of go and looking back at the first start of the season. We got a lot of questions from you guys that you gave to us. I think almost like 8 or 9 questions that we have on here to answer for y'all tonight. So this is a loaded podcast full of just stuff to go over, and I'm excited to do it. And I'm glad to be with my two co-hosts, Dustin Lewis, our lead writer, and our lead graphic designer, Fisher Goober Adkins. It's Clemson week. I had to do it, Fisher. I'm sorry.
I mean, if it helps FSU win, I understand.
You're gonna need a lot of things. If you believe in a lot of spirits, and if you're superstitious, if you got that one shirt to wear, I think that is going to be the one that you're going to want to wear on Saturday. How are you doing, Dustin? Very quiet.
Yeah, I mean, doing awesome. Looking forward to Florida State finally having a game on Saturday. Last Saturday, all I did was lose money, so I'm hoping this Saturday I can just watch Florida State lose a game instead.
You really didn't learn from what we tried to help you with last week when we recorded. Me and Fisher were trying to help you out as much as possible.
I'm gonna be honest. I think I need that sit down. I think I do.
Yeah. Well, the next time
after Sunday and Monday night.
Well, I was gonna say
I'm in shambles.
Yeah, that's all right. But here's the deal: Fisher can't come back down to Tallahassee anymore. We've kind of already agreed on that. He can't come to any games because every time he comes and watches a game, Florida State does lose. So Dustin, I think you're gonna have to go to Mississippi. Which I know you don't really want to do.
They have a lot of mental
love to have you, man.
up there.
They have what?
A lot of mental institutions because everyone just goes crazy in that state.
Don't really think we do, but
this is starting to get really. Might have to run hands soon.
Isn't Florida the state that's like
has all the crazies and all the crazy stories? Yeah.
This alligator with like a pair of scissors. That's like.
No, they inflate the statistics, bro. We're not on.
Yeah. Florida is crazy, but we don't have time to be playing right now. Fisher's got some like Blues Clues to watch after this and all this kind of stuff. He gets like a fall break, so he's getting ready to go on a trip out of town tomorrow. So we're gonna try to grind this one out. We got a ton to talk about. And also, I just want to let you guys know you can listen to this on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Play, and I will let you all know too, since I see this is up and coming thing, we are now available on YouTube. So immediately whenever we publish these podcasts, they go straight to our YouTube account and they're published there. So in case you guys listen to podcasts over there like crazy people, go ahead, subscribe over there, and we'll be utilizing the
YouTube fan base. Jeez.
No harm. But if you listen to podcasts on YouTube, which is a video platform. Go right ahead, be my guest. I know there's a lot of crazy YouTube people out there. I used to be in the same boat, but yeah, if y'all are over there, subscribe. It will update you every time we upload a video, which is going to be filled with our audio from these. It'd be great if you guys go ahead and subbed over there. And as always, thank you guys so much for listening. We've seen a lot of support, and we've seen a lot of our listens go up the last couple of weeks, and definitely the start of the season. So we appreciate it. We try to do this as much as we can. All three of us are in college, so sometimes it's hectic for us and it's wild, and we can usually either do these early in the morning or crazy late at night. So we appreciate you guys giving us a listen and giving us a try and leaving us ratings on iTunes and all that kind of stuff. So I thought I'd throw that out there before we jump right into it. So I think the big highlight, obviously going into this Clemson game, we heard from Lee Taggart on Monday. James Blackman will be starting this game in Death Valley. I don't think this was a shock to us three, right, Dustin and Fisher?
Yeah, not at all.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, especially considering James Blackman did suit up, not last week, but the previous week against NC State. And the plan was never to use him, but he was available if he had to go. So you would imagine that he would be your starter against Clemson.
Yeah, he was out there. We saw him fully warming up. And then, of course, we saw Hornibrook go out there and play the entire game. But, yeah, I think we already noted on this if you want to go listen to the podcast before, but we can quickly note on, how this game will now be played now knowing who this true starter will be with Blackman at the helm. Willie Tiger did mention, though, Alex Hornibrook will probably most likely be playing in this game, too. So it looks like they're going to be playing two quarterbacks. When's the last time? I don't know. We're young. But I'm trying to think about the last time we've seen Florida State run a two quarterback kind of offense. It's not. I don't think they really. It didn't seem like they have a plan, like a set plan. They might be just faking it, and they actually have a pretty nice plan laid out. But it seemed like Kendall Briles is kind of going with the flow, and they'll see what happens whenever they get play out of Blackman and whenever they throw Hornibrook out there. But I don't remember the last time I've seen Florida State play this kind of two quarterback system like they will go do in Death Valley against Clemson.
Yeah, really, the last time I can remember Florida State doing something like this was all the way back when Bobby Bowden was head coach, way back in 2007 when Drew Weatherford and Xavier Lee split time. So it's been a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, those were the two names that came to mind.
Xavier Lee.
But other than that, I don't think Florida State's ever really done something like this unless they really had to.
Mm-hmm. And one thing, I think we all noted on too, and we can discuss it really quickly and move on. But with James Blackman at the helm, I think you get a better advantage of stretching that field more, which that's what you need. I mean, it might be more risk, higher reward, but you get a guy that can stretch that field, can kind of lay those linebackers back. So then you might even have a potential opportunity to have running game with one of the best running backs that is having an excellent start to their season with Cam Akers. But deep ball threat, this is what James Blackman brings to the table better than Alex Hornibrook. But I'll let you guys speak on that too.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Obviously, Blackman is more averse to taking shots down the field. Hornibrook, whenever he's in, he's more of a check down guy. He'll take what's there. And then obviously you have Blackman who's going to take those risks, but so far this season, whenever he's taken those shots, he's been mostly successful. I know he's missed a few crucial ones. You think back to that deep throw he missed at Virginia to Morion Terry. That's probably the biggest throw Blackman has missed so far this season. So coming off injury, coming off a game where, Alex Hornibrook played the entirety of Florida State's last win, I'm really interested to see how Blackman performs early in this game. I'm interested to see if he starts the game out of rhythm due to missing some time.
Yeah, I think if you asked me, if you can only have one quarterback play the entire game, I would definitely go Blackman, and I don't think that's up for much debate. I think Blackman clearly gives you the better chance to win this game. Blackman, kind of like y'all both mentioned, really has the ability to stretch the field which is something that Florida State's absolutely going to have to do to be able to win this game, is to, convert those explosive plays, execute those deep balls, those deep throws, which is something Blackman is good at doing. And he's obviously missed a few times, but that's going to happen when you take as many as he does. So overall, you like his ability to stretch the field. And then you also look at, Florida State gave up 8 sacks last week, and half of those were Hornibrook's fault. And so, Clemson is definitely known to get after the passer, and that's going to be the case on Saturday when the Noles take on Clemson. That defensive line is coming for whoever's behind center. So Blackman also gives you a better chance at giving the quarterback more time to throw and kind of evading a couple of those sacks. Definitely were avoidable last week.
Yeah, and that's something Hornibrook kind of was putting himself into. We discussed it in our last podcast, but Hornibrook put himself in those situations, and that's something Blackman doesn't usually try to do. And he kind of gets out of there and eludes the pressure, and can roll out and give the other time for maybe you can find a guy that's open down the field. So yeah, I think we all agreed on it. We're not too shocked about this. We kind of think we expected. I know the fan base, a lot of the fan base was, riding with Hornibrook because he's won some games, but this is still Blackman's team. If Blackman's playing terrible, then of course I would think that you would see Alex Hornibrook go in. But either way, it looks like both quarterbacks will play, and so it should be pretty interesting. We should have a pretty interesting podcast to recap that game with. That's for sure.
Yeah. Just one more thought I have about the quarterbacks too. While we're still on is last game against NC State. I keep trying to say last week. It wasn't last week. 2 weeks ago against NC State. That was kind of the first game that Florida State really didn't start strong. However, you saw the offense be able to elevate throughout the game, but looking at the flip side of that, Blackman was able to always start strong and then was never able to sustain it. And so I think that's kind of the idea behind, playing both guys is Blackman gives you that strong start and he elevates the offense. But Hornibrook. Sorry, y'all. Hornibrook, I think, is able to sustain that offense and kind of give it a nudge whenever Blackman is not connecting and not making those throws that he usually makes. So I think using them both is the right idea, and I think it's a way to keep the offense moving and keep it efficient.
It's a nice change of pace.
Yeah, no, that's interesting what you brought up for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, like you said, Blackman usually does have solid starts to games, and then it kind of dies off and the offense doesn't keep its momentum going. I think this will be an interesting game overall. I know we got a question here from a follower, talking about, missing a start and having a minor injury. How much could it really affect him? Because, he still had an injury. He's not just coming back fully healthy. I mean, he's expected to come back fully healthy, but you get what I mean here. He's missed a game, and it'll be interesting to see how he plays. I think both quarterbacks have to play their smartest game in order to keep this game close. There can't be any turnovers or it could get ugly quickly. Florida State does better with momentum, but, Florida State started off slow offensively, and their last game, I mean, one of the best running backs in the country, Cam Akers, was held to no yards pretty much going into the second half. They're gonna have to figure out a way to get cooking early. They won't have Dalvin Cook on their side, sadly, so they're gonna have to figure out a way. And I'm interested to see how one of the best offensive-minded coaches right now in college football, with Kendall Briles, a very respected guy, will work with these two guys. But it seems like they've got some kind of plan against Clemson. Florida State is kind of fairly fully healthy, aside from having Joshua Kando and Jaden Lars Woodby out for the rest of the season. Juwan Williams and Cole Minshew actually returned to practice this week. How big, we were talking about it last week. We're like, wow, we wouldn't ever have thought coming into this season, at least, that, it'd be a very big deal if Juwan Williams was coming back or coming to start and play a big vital role for this offensive line. But after looking at last week and how much this could possibly help this offensive line improve if he's out there, just give some notes on that, Dustin, because you had predicted him before the season started to be one of the most influential and a guy that was going to make the biggest step forward for his position group.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's crazy that now we're waiting and we're hoping for Juan Williams to be healthy enough to go against Clemson to start at left tackle. A season ago, if you would have said that, you would have sounded like a crazy person. We would have had to take you to one of those mental institutions in Mississippi. But Williams has really taken a step forward. I mean, this is the first offseason he was ever really healthy at Florida State. He got a chance to rebuild his body after those shoulder injuries, and physically he's taken a massive step forward. And I think having Randy Clements there has also helped him mentally improve. So really having Juan Williams out there on Saturday, it's going to help this Florida State offensive line. Abdu Bello isn't even close to the player that Williams has turned himself into. And I'm looking forward to seeing him get challenged by an elite defense and how he responds in his first game back after injury.
I just don't know why, like, I'm the one that gets, like, picked on all the time.
Because you're the only one outside of Florida. I think that's
true. That's true.
But Dustin has a thing. Yeah, Dustin has a thing.
You don't even realize. Like, people that don't live in Florida, like, don't like Florida.
I don't like Florida, and I live here.
But, I mean, you never even been to Mississippi, man.
I
don't know that.
It's a good place. It's a good place.
Well, the only thing that I have a problem with, and like just Mississippi State mainly, is the cowbells. I just don't think I could do it. You know, you kind of like said, "Hey, come up, Logan." You know.
Oh no.
And like I just don't. I'm like, yeah, I'd love to, you know, but my ears though.
No. Davis Wade Stadium is one of the best environments in college football. Telling you, man.
Could you do the cowbells, Dustin?
Here's the deal with the cowbell. One cowbell is the most annoying sound in the world, but 62,000 cowbells at once is right before kickoff. That's pretty exciting stuff. It's pretty exciting.
I don't know if that sounds about right. What do you think, Dustin?
You know, I don't want to hurt Fisher's feelings anymore.
You're not hurting my feelings. I just, you know.
I just don't know about that. But maybe you know, maybe we should take a trip up there, Dustin, one year, maybe next year or something. Maybe some podcast listeners would maybe say, "Hey, go give it a try," and then we get our reaction. Cussing allowed in the reaction.
You know what? Whatever.
Needs more cowbell.
Moving on. I don't want y'all to come visit anyway. I don't want it.
I know. Oh, mean.
No. It's over. You lost your invite.
All right.
Probably getting back to
Juan Williams.
Yeah, getting back. I want to talk a little bit about Logan Tyler. On Monday, it was confirmed from Willie Taggart that he is no longer going to be with the team. It was reported that he was going to be transferring from Florida State. And this goes from a situation that he had kind of, you know, a day before the football season started for them against Boise State, a situation with a DUI, and kind of it's a tough situation because, you know, this guy, you know, has repped Florida State in a very nice way. I know a lot of people on Twitter just kind of like to get their entertainment or get their attention sometimes and just tweet some stupid stuff. But Logan Tyler's done a lot of things. He's very close with his teammates there, but also he's done a lot of stuff in the community, even some things that people don't even know about privately with kids and taking time out for them and just going by himself without anybody knowing. Nowhere on social media has he put it. He's done a lot for this team. And you know what's also interesting here, and I'll let you guys talk to in a second, but coming in, he was kind of put in a sticky situation. He was the first player I interviewed at NoleGameDay.com. That was the first article I've ever written, was actually about Logan Tyler. So he was kind of stuck in between. You know, he was going to have Roberto Aguayo's brother, Ricky Aguayo, come in, who was obviously a respected kicker too. But Logan Tyler was always the higher rated field goal kicker. And, you know, he showed out really well against him in the Coles camp And, it kind of just continued to where, he just knew, the Aguayo name might carry on where Ricky Aguayo would get the starts. So there's kind of contemplation between Alabama and Florida State. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but there was a lot of, maybe go to Alabama or kind of compete with Ricky and try to get that starting spot. But eventually Ricky did get that starting spot under Jimbo Fisher. But there was a lot of things that I was told and a lot of people have reported on, I think, but came out, that Logan Tyler was winning a lot of these competitions in practice. He came in as a better kicker, but during practice, he was even executing and beating Ricky Aguayo out in drills. So I think it's a tough situation. He came in now. He was a punter. He was asked to punt. He's also the kickoff duty. He's got one of the strongest legs you'll see. I think on YouTube you can watch him kick a 70-yarder, maybe more. One of the strongest legs I've seen it from a kicker. So he's now in the transfer portal, but also he's no longer with the program. So I personally would like to give the best of luck to him. I think it was a bad mistake on his part. I think he knows that. He's a smart guy, good guy, and he's done a lot for this team. And I just, the stuff that is being said about him and all that kind of, it's just kind of ridiculous. But it's usually older people that I just kind of want to get some attention, and it's kind of ridiculous. A guy makes a mistake, and I wish some people would kind of just kind of look in and see what a guy has done for the program. But yeah, I just kind of want to talk about that for a second. I'll let you guys go.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Tyler has represented the program extremely well outside of this really one glaring mistake. I mean, I remember, throughout his career, he was usually one of the only guys to ever go over to the band after games and, be there for the ending fight song. And, that tradition's kind of something that Willie Taggart has taken to the next level now that he's gotten here. So I'm sure that was really cool for Tyler to be a part of, the whole team joining him for that. But yeah, I mean, like you said, I just wish him the best of luck moving forward, and hopefully he lands in a good opportunity for him and he can show out in 2020 in his final year and make it to the next level.
Yeah, it kind of seemed like Logan Tyler was one of the first guys to really buy into Taggart when Taggart arrived. It was always clear, seeing the way that Logan Tyler would lift up his teammates, especially after the Boise State game this year. One of those guys that went over and helped up, to Dontavius Jackson after he took that loss pretty hard. So there's no doubt that Logan Tyler loved Florida State and still does, and was certainly a leader for this team and played really well at times too. Wasn't the most consistent guy, but at times he played really well and really kicked the ball really well and was a really sure, reliable kickoff guy for you. So I think he's going to go somewhere and have a good finish out his career somewhere and wish him all the best. But it's just crazy how a guy can do so much good and then makes one mistake and all of a sudden, he's a terrible person and he's bad for the program and say whatever you want. And, it's kind of funny. A guy like Greg Reed, he made a mistake and all of a sudden it's, he didn't do anything wrong. He should be able to play and come back. And so it's really just circumstantial. And it's kind of ridiculous, but, best of luck to Logan Tyler.
Yeah, no, and I think moving forward for him, if he gets an opportunity somewhere, which I do think he will, the situation that he'll probably want to go through is probably kicking field goals. If he's trying to go to that next level, being able to hit all three and giving that to scouts moving forward, I mean, of course it's tough coming from what happened, the mistake that was made. Still being able to execute and do kickoff duties, field goal, and also punting plays a big role for him. So I would expect if he were to transfer somewhere, which I know he's trying very hard to do, and I know the process is working on that right now. If he's going to go somewhere, he's going to try to do field goal. So it'd be interesting to see that whenever he lands on a team somewhere. So hopefully, a tough situation for him, I know. I just, it's, sometimes you see stuff on the internet and it's kind of ridiculous. It's really annoying. Mistakes are made sometimes, but this guy kind of really, like Fisher said, he's really close with his teammates, and like you said, lifting up Dontavius Jackson. While Dontavius Jackson, after the Boise State game, was sitting there extremely emotional. This is a special teams guy. You don't usually see this as much from special teams guys. They're usually those guys, we've played football, but they're usually the ones that are off just messing around, doing whatever, or, they're not as close with guys, he's a very close teammate to a lot of them and a big supporter of the Marching Chiefs, like Dustin noted, and, the program as a whole. And I think it's just a tough situation. So I wish him the best of luck when he can land somewhere and get some playing time. All right, sweet. So I think that's pretty much there. Also, we'll note a little bit on the NFL guys. It's kind of kicking up quite a bit. It was kind of a slow start for FSU players to start the season, but man, Brian Burns, he came out of September as rookie of the month. How about that? On Sunday, he had a touchdown as a defensive end, and he also had a strip on the quarterback. Ryan Izzo also had his first career touchdown from Tom Brady with the Patriots. Ew. I'm a Steelers fan. If you're new to this podcast, I'm a Steelers fan, so that's disgusting for me. But congrats to Ryan Izzo. Looks like he's getting some more playing time. I think one of their tight ends is out, but he's been playing quite a bit this season, so good for him. Auden Tate with the Bengals, also but he scored their touchdown. He scored a touchdown on Sunday. Dalvin Cook is still doing his thing, man. He's disgusting this season. I mean, he's unreal. He's dirty. And then, of course, Jameis Winston, who, I'm sure, Dustin, you can note on this. Jameis Winston almost kind of went to New Orleans and was trying to get a win out of there, but just couldn't happen. But he's still staying solid. I don't think he didn't throw any interceptions, correct?
He didn't throw any picks, but it was an ugly game.
Yeah. But yeah, Jameis and a lot of these Knowles are doing pretty good right now. I'm trying to think of anybody else that I might be missing. I don't think I am.
One guy I'd like to note on quickly is a Pittsburgh Steeler, who I'm surprised you wouldn't bring up. Vince Williams.
Vinny, yeah,
played pretty well in the Steelers' loss to the Ravens on Sunday. He had 9 tackles and a sack. I was watching that game, and I came away pretty impressed.
Yeah, and the thing is, I believe he missed 2 games. I believe maybe 3, but I think it was 2. So he was still kind of rusty at times, you could tell, but he's a solid linebacker in the league. I'm telling you, man. He's usually one of the top guys to perform there defensively, and all the Knowles that are playing right now in the league. But Vince Williams, it's good to have him back and combine him with Devin Bush over there, who's a true rookie from Michigan. I mean, Devin Bush is dirty too, but we don't run a Michigan podcast.
A guy who really almost came to FSU though too.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, his sister's playing on the softball team.
Yeah.
And I actually spoke, which is pretty funny, with Devin Bush just real quick, because his dad played here at Florida State, well-respected player, way before our time, of course. But Devin Bush's grandma came into where I was working, and she told me, I think he might be going to this is before the draft. She was like, I really hope he goes to the Steelers. There's a lot of talk about him going, like they'll come up and get him. And sure enough, grandma was right. Steelers go up and grab him. And shoot, I'm happy with it. So yeah, Devin Bush, I'm extremely happy with. That's the only probably thing that I'm happy about this season for us, Pittsburgh wise. All right, it's Q&A time. Holy moly, we have a few on here. You guys ready? We haven't done these in a while. We usually ask you guys on either Twitter or Instagram to throw us some questions, DM us, or ask us through the story on Instagram. And we try to answer as many as we can. Some of them are kind of silly, so we don't, let's be honest. Dustin usually does the mailbag, so he sees some silly ones. But we're going to do a Q&A here. We might keep on doing these every week. Y'all let us know if you like it. But it seemed that we got about at least 15 or more questions. But right now we picked just a hands full to go over since we don't have all night. But I'll go ahead and start off right now, which is a hot question, but I think it's time to kind of end it. I think we kind of know the answer now, but why isn't Kane Laborn getting more touches right now, Dustin?
Well, honestly, it just seems like Florida State's offense has decided to roll with Cam Akers, getting basically just about every single touch in the run game, and live or die by Cam Akers basically. Akers has started off his junior season extremely well, but I am kind of concerned. He's on pace to carry the ball almost 300 times in 12 games. That's not even if Florida State, somehow would make it to the ACC championship or a bowl game. So, I mean, you get up to a 14-game schedule, I'm going to get worried about Akers' durability. So just to cap this question off, I do think it's important for Florida State to start getting Laborn more involved going forward, just to preserve Cam so he's at his best at the end of the season.
Yeah, before the season, I believe that I kind of said that I thought that they would. It'd be Cam at first, and then throughout the year that they would start to split carries, and I guess that's still a possibility. But to me, it's evident that it's not so much of Kalen, not deserving to carry the ball, but just more so that Cam is so deserving of it. I don't know if deserving is the right word, but it's just evident that the coaching staff fully trusts Cam. Cam is your guy this year. He is playing the best football that he's probably ever played in his life right now. And just the way that he carries the ball, and he's okay getting 1 to 2 yards to no yards to tackle for loss. He's okay, doing that and doing it over and over and over again until eventually, he breaks the 10, 12, and eventually, 40-yard runs. And so Cam has certainly proven that he's trustworthy, and the offense seems to kind of go as he goes. I think it's much more just about the coaching staff trusting Cam way more than it is about them not trusting Kalen, because Kalen's certainly shown he has ability. He's had a lot of nice runs this year. That kind of, when he does it, it kind of makes you scratch your head and be like, yeah, why is he not why is he not the guy? But I think they just trust Cam so much. But I do agree, Dustin. I think towards the end of the year, you're kind of going to want to see Kalen increase his touches just to keep Cam healthy and available.
Yeah, no, and I kind of was a little shocked a little bit that Kalen Laborn wasn't getting as many carries at the start of the season, but Cam Akers is having a great season. You got a future NFL guy there, in my opinion, that is having a fabulous start to the season. And I think you just keep on riding that hot hand with them. From what I've heard, a guy very close, a person close with the team said, Kalen Laborn has, realized this is Cam Akers' year. And he knows he'll be the number one guy next year. And there's no plans to leave, of course. And he's kind of fine with this. He's supporting Cam as much as he can. But when Kalen will get his time, he will put out there as best as he could and perform at his best opportunity. Both guys I think we've seen that are extremely talented. But Cam Akers right now is having a fabulous start to the season, and we'll see a lot of
crazy. Cam, sorry, I didn't cut you off. Cam has nearly 100 more carries than Kalen has.
It's insanity. And what goes more into that is that Cam Akers we heard a lot of good things about him during the offseason about, conditioning and putting himself in shape, and but the lifting that he did also this offseason was incredible. He was lifting more than linemen were. He's extremely strong. If you're near him, he's extremely in shape and cut, and it's something. He's like a James Wilder out there. The way that he.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, just look at the guy.
Smaller James Wilder.
Yeah, it is pretty interesting to think of, Dustin, because he's able to, like Dabo said in the press conference, which we'll get to down here, I think, or we'll note on. So Dabo Swinney said he's not the easiest to tackle. You got to be ready to bring more than one guy to him, because he kind of just goes through you and he's going to keep on running, just doesn't stop. And I think it's a mix of that. He did a great job with his body this offseason, but also you can tell how much smarter he is at reading the field, using his eyes. Being patient was something that he was having trouble with last year. just watched some film on him. Definitely even last week I noticed it. Usually he'll rush into things, but this year he's been able to sit back, read, and he's playing so much smarter in his head, and that's going to do so well for him moving up into the league too. All right, next question, which is kind of what we talked about earlier, but we'll quickly note on it and give our just quick couple sentences on it, why this maybe should not happen. But do you think Alex Hornibrook should start over James Blackman? James Blackman was listed, and as Willie Taggart said, he's going to be the starter against Clemson in Death Valley on Saturday. What do you guys think? Should Hornibrook start over James Blackman?
I'm going to say no, just because I think Blackman is, for one, more mobile in the pocket. That's going to alleviate the problem Florida State has up front as best as it can. Blackman being able to dodge defenders, throw the ball away, do basically whatever he can not to get sacked. He's done a great job of avoiding oncoming rushers. And then also, like we talked about earlier in the podcast, the ability to hit on big plays in this offense, because that's really what you're going to need to beat Clemson. You're going to need their defense to get out of assignment on a few plays, and you're going to need to hit a couple big ones to stay in this game and, potentially win it if Florida State plays their absolute best, plus some.
Yeah, and I feel like we've talked a lot about this already on the podcast, so I'll just kind of keep it short. No. James Blackman gives you, in my opinion, your only chance to beat Clemson. Hornibrook is certainly a nice change of pace for this offense, but James Blackman is he's the guy that you want starting at quarterback for this game.
Number 3 on the list here from our Q&A. How do you think James Blackman missing a start and having a minor injury could affect him against Clemson on Saturday?
Yeah, that's another thing I kind of mentioned a little bit back. There is some concern that he could start this game maybe out of rhythm, maybe pushing it a little bit too much, following his return from injury. But to me, Blackman is the type of player that really, if he has an off series, he can go over to the sideline, talk to Bryles, talk to the players, understand what went wrong, and then go back out there and fix it. He's not someone that's going to panic if a couple drives go the wrong way. He's going to keep working to be successful the next time. He's not going to think about past mistakes.
Yeah, I honestly don't see this injury affecting his mindset really at all against Clemson. I feel like James is his mindset. He's never really zoned out at all. Even when he went down against Louisville, was it? He was still very much into that game mentally, very locked in. And then again against NC State, he was extremely locked into that game and focused, even not playing. And it was easy to see just the excitement that he had on the sideline. Just shows how focused and locked into the game he was. So I don't think that he's really taken any time off mentally. And then just looking at what he did as a true freshman in Death Valley in 2017, throwing 13 of 32 for 208 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. It's certainly not a great stat line, but for a true freshman, in the situation that he was in, Florida State was in that game really until the end. So fast forward 2 years to James Blackman now in a much better situation. This is a guy that kind of lives to be an underdog, and the 27-point or whatever it is spread, doesn't really faze him. He's going to walk into Death Valley confident. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to probably miss a few guys, but I don't think that's going to really rattle him. Just based off of what we know of the kind of player that he is and the mindset that he always has, every single game.
Yeah, no, this is an interesting game for James Blackman. I'm really intrigued to see how he plays, because I think if he plays how he did in Virginia, he seemed out of it at Virginia. I don't know about you guys, but I realized he was just kind of out of it. He was pushing balls where he usually doesn't do. If he can get away from that, kind of be relaxed, I think he does sit in the pocket better than most people do. When he know there's guys coming around him, flying around, he will sit in that pocket, and if there's a deep ball there, he will probably take it and know he's going to get whacked. And that's something that Clemson's obviously trying to get ready for, because they know they don't really have to worry about that with Alex Hornibrook. I think Alex Hornibrook will rush and try to run into maybe a defender. James Blackman, I think, like y'all noted on, if he has a bad series, he'll go talk to his guys, talk to Bryles, and get his head back in it, because not only is it, he's got the skill set to do it, which I think he's also the biggest leader on the team. He knows guys are looking up to him, relying on him, and he knows how much that means. It means a lot to him. So I'm interested to see how he plays in this game and how he connects with Tamarion Terry. I think we'll get to it at the end of this podcast, but I still think you've got to utilize this guy with Tamarion Terry, and I think James Blackman going deep with him could play a factor, or really anybody, but Tamarion Terry, had a lot of balls going to him last year with Francois, and Tamarion Terry would come up with most of them. I mean, 90%. I think this game might be a show for Blackman and Terry, but we'll get into that at the end of this podcast. Next question here, which I think Dustin will have a lot to talk about here. How do you feel on Ricky Aguayo's position right now?
Well, I like turtles, so I don't like Ricky Aguayo.
Oh my gosh.
But, seriously, Ricky, something we talked about on the NC State recap, Ricky has really been struggling these last two games. He's missed four out of his last 5 field goals. That included 3 against Louisville, and that culminated with him being benched at the end of the NC State win, with Parker Grothaus taking over the last 2 extra points. So really, I'm interested to see if that continues into this Saturday. Who's Florida State going to trot out at kicker? Is it going to be Aguayo, or is it going to be Grothaus? I don't think they wouldn't give Fitzgerald a shot in a game like this for his first ever appearance. So really, it's down to those 2 guys. I'm not really comfortable with Aguayo walking out there.
Yeah, I think kind of just where Florida State's at, not necessarily looking at the Clemson game specifically, but for the rest of the season, Florida State's really going to have to fight for every win. They're really not in a position to where they can leave the kicking game up to chance. And so they're going to have to put the best guy out there. So I don't think that's been determined yet. We don't know, who really is better, but it's certainly a question that the coaches are thinking about, letting Grothaus take those last 2 kicks. And so for Clemson, you're probably going to want to lean experience, which is obviously Ricky Aguayo. So I would imagine that he is going to take the bulk of the kicks. But, if he starts missing, I think they're certainly going to let Grothaus, have his shot as well. So, again, not looking at just the Clemson game, but going ahead, you really need that to be locked down. You need automatic 3 points every time you got to kick a field goal, because Florida State needs that. They need that desperately in every game that they play this season. So hopefully that's something that gets figured out quickly, and hopefully Ricky Aguayo can figure it out. It'd kind of be a shame for him to lose his job during his senior season. So we'll see how that shakes out on Saturday.
On to the next question here. They ask, I'm not convinced, like everyone else, that we're going to get boat raced by Clemson. How about you guys? And
Sorry about that.
Fisher, obviously. Go ahead, Dustin. Sorry, we're just here for you. My bad. Go ahead. Sorry. Well, Fisher's
What kind of boats are we racing?
I really don't know a lot of names of boats, I'll be honest with you. I live in Florida, and I don't really know any boat.
Can I go ahead? Can I give my thoughts first?
I know jet skis,
yachts.
Yes,
sir.
Okay.
Cruise line boats. I don't know.
So here's my take on that question. Every week we try to try to have a Knowles win graphic ready for each game, to put out if Florida State does win the game. And I was talking to our other graphic designer, Adam, who does incredible work for us. He's in charge this week of putting together the Knowles win graphic. I told him probably best just not to waste your time putting together a Knowles graphic. Don't think we'll be needing it. That's that's my take on whether or not we're going to get boat raced.
Jeez Louise.
But in a positive light, I will say, put all your money on Florida State plus 27. Feel good about yourself.
Well, I'm going to be really ticked off, though, Fisher, if out of some magical thing, Florida State wins one of their biggest game in years, and we have just
no graphic.
Something
Don't
so
worry about it.
that we've ever seen in my entire life. I hope you, whenever you get back from your trip, that you have a lot of content that we're making, because I'm going to be silly trigger trash. But I mean, that's just if it were to happen. But man,
if they win, we can tweet a picture of Alec Eberle or something.
Yeah, seems like a great idea. That's why Dustin is not on the creative team. That's why
let's use the one. Let's use the one we used from 2013. Do we have that one still?
Shoot, I mean, that was just. I don't think
I was even.
Me. Yeah, you weren't with me. I was just me at the time. I don't even know what I tweeted then, but you know what I'll do?
We used for that.
You know what? That's what I'll do tomorrow while I'm in class, where I should be listening and taking notes. I'm going to spend time going back and seeing what we tweeted back in 2013 when Florida State won. That's what I'll have set ready for us. Well, great. That was a great answer there for who asked that. I didn't list the names on here, so that's really helpful. On to the next question, which I think is a good question here. Will a bye week before Clemson hurt us or help us? And that's something I don't know about you guys, but I've thought in the back of my brain the last couple of days. Last week, has this bye week helped Florida State? You know, you get some guys healthy. You could watch some more film on one of the well-respected teams, still one of the best teams in the country with Clemson, or is it a bad thing? What do you guys think?
You know, honestly, I almost feel like having the bye week right before Clemson is a bad thing for Florida State, because against Louisville, against NC State, even against Virginia, we saw this team slowly building incremental progress week by week, and then suddenly they have a week off, and then bang, they're going into their biggest game of the season. So I almost think it would have been better if Florida State would have played Clemson last Saturday, but at that same time, this bye week allowed Blackman to really probably get back to close to as fully healthy as he'll be for the rest of the season. Some other guys that were banged up in the first 5 weeks, they're probably a little bit more healthier. And then at the same time, Florida State's coaching staff got a week to review a lot of the first half of that season, understand what's working for this team, and then game plan to do more of that going forward. But, you know, Clemson also had a bye week. So, I mean, really when it gets down to it, the effects are pretty negligible. It's not going to be much of a payoff either way.
I think it certainly helps more than it hurts. If you're Florida State, Dustin, like you said, I think it gives the coaching staff just some time to kind of just sit around the table and really evaluate where this team is at. And it's nice to give Jim Leavitt some time to watch some film, and hopefully by now he's really got a grasp on who this team is and what they're capable of doing. And so from that standpoint, I think it helps out a lot. I think it also helps just to kind of build up a little bit of confidence back in this team. Let this offensive line sort of build back confidence after a pretty poor showing against NC State. Let guys get healthy. You know, you're very healthy minus Kendo and blanking Lars Woodby. So apart from those guys, you're very healthy. Getting guys like Juwan Williams and Minshew back, I think, is great for you. So overall, I think it's good. It just kind of depends on if Taggart allow these guys to not stay focused. I think that's kind of the key there, is just, coming back to work and staying focused on what needs to get done every single day. And so we'll kind of see how that translates onto the field. The flip side too is that Clemson's coming off a bye week as well. And so, I don't, for this game, I don't know that, like you said, Dustin, I think the effects of whether it hurts you or helps you, I think is pretty marginal. Especially with Clemson coming off a bye week as well. kind of cancels out really any benefit that you get, just aside from sort of evaluating where the team is at as a whole. So,
I this one's a tricky one for me. I'll note on it real quick. I think Florida State, with their momentum where they were going, definitely defensively, I think it would have been nice for Florida State to play on Saturday. But I'm also thinking about guys that need rest. I also do think about John Williams and how the offensive line looked pretty poor and how he could come in and, bringing him, giving an extra week of rest can help that offensive line if he were to be playing this Saturday against Clemson. I think that's a big deal. I also think about rest for guys like we've talked about with Cam Akers, who has had a ridiculous amount of load to start the season. You get a guy like that fully rested. You also get your big boys, who Dabo Swinney also mentioned today during his press conference about the front three with Robert Cooper. You got Marvin Wilson and you got Corey Durden, guys that are some big boys. That's something Dabo noted on. Those are some massive boys, well over 300 pounds. Getting those guys rest, and a guy who I kind of mentioned last week, Marvin Wilson, who I think needs to have the best game of his career against Clemson in order for this game to stay anywhere close to a game. I think the rest will help. I do think, it's tough. Both teams had a bye week, and also, Clemson comes off of a very extremely close game with North Carolina. And, they might be pissed off after that. But Florida State has some momentum. I do think the Jim Leavitt thing is a big deal. I think he's a big film watching kind of guy. Willie Taggart actually mentioned that, they're going to have a couple days off earlier this week or last week, but each guy has to watch film for at least 30 minutes a day, and they can track it through the app and all that kind of stuff. So, Jim Leavitt also being able to watch film, I think helps quite a bit. So we'll see, but it's kind of hard to pick. But I do think having the bye week does help a little bit. On to our last two questions here. What are your thoughts on our offensive line against NC State? You want to start off with that one, Fisher or Dustin? Who wants to take that one?
Yeah, Florida State's offensive line surrendered 8 sacks against NC State. The running game really couldn't get going outside of that one 41-yard burst out of Cam Akers in the second half. So that was really the worst we've seen the offensive play so far in 2019 under the leadership of Clements. I really think that had a lot to do with the changing of the guard at quarterback for that game with Blackman being hit with that leg injury. So, I think that's going to change against Clemson with Blackman taking the primary snaps. Like we've kind of talked about, he's more elusive in the pocket. He's going to be able to evade those types of negative plays, and that helps Florida State because not getting behind the chains early will allow them to do what they want to do, which is put the ball in Cam Akers' hands and let him go to work. And that's another area that's going to be big for this offensive line on Saturday. They're going to get challenged against this Clemson front seven, and they're either going to step up or back down. So we're really going to see how far this offensive line has come in the past year on Saturday.
Yeah, by far, kind of the worst performance that we've seen out of this offensive line against NC State. As Dustin mentioned, a lot of that is due in part to Hornibrook starting that game. Hornibrook really did not do a great job getting the ball out of his hands at times, which resulted in unnecessary sacks. Florida State gave up 8 total. In addition, kind of like Dustin mentioned as well, this was maybe definitely not the best rushing performance that we've seen out of Florida State. Cam Akers, your leading rusher, with 83 yards in that game. So certainly not what Florida State would like to see out of their rushing attack. Florida State looked at times dominated up front, pretty badly. NC State whipped them at times, and Florida State looked like 2018 offensive line against NC State. And so that certainly does not bode well against Clemson, who is arguably the best defensive front in the entire nation. Even after losing all that talent last year, Guys like Xavier Thomas and Tyler Davis are two guys that are really making an impact up front for Clemson. And so, kind of like I mentioned, I think the bye week was a good week for them to kind of build that confidence back, get confidence back instilled in these guys, and let Clements work on fundamentals again, and preach what they're doing right, and hopefully work on those things and address what's wrong. And then looking again at getting Jawan Williams back, which I think is a huge help. Bello really struggling in NC State. Doesn't really look like he's up to the task, especially against a team like Clemson. I don't think that Jawan Williams is a major step up from Abdul Bello, but I think he definitely gives you more consistent play and just better overall performance there. Kind of just recapping again, probably the worst performance we've seen, but I think for the most part that was a little circumstantial with Hornibrook being in there. But they're going to have to bounce back big time to give Florida State a chance to beat Clemson.
All right, with the last question from the Q&A, and then we'll get on to the end of the podcast with giving our predictions and some of the hot topics heading into the game. Let me get the last question out here. How do you think Florida State's defensive line will match up against Clemson's offensive line and their running back, Etienne? And we kind of talked about it earlier. You kind of give them a little bit of rest, talking about Florida State's defensive line, guys that are very well respected. I think a lot of opposing coaches kind of know what they bring to the table. Obviously, Dabo Swinney is a very smart coach, definitely well respected. He knows about how big these boys are. And, I think that main threat there was an NFL product with Marvin Wilson, who happens just to be in college football pads right now, how much of a threat they bring. But y'all give me your thoughts on how Florida State's defensive line is going to match up against Clemson's offensive line and try to give a threat to Trevor Lawrence and a well-respected running back with Etienne.
Yeah, honestly, I'm kind of concerned for Florida State's defensive line, particularly in the first half with Janarius Robinson having to sit due to the targeting penalty he got against North Carolina State. But to me, what you have in that big three of Marvin Wilson, Robert Cooper, and Corey Durden. You're going to get really solid play in the interior. But it comes down to those edge linebackers. How is Amari Gaynor going to play in this game? And whoever steps up and takes the majority of Janarius Robinson snaps in that first half, how are they going to step up and play? Because the interior, you really like what you have there, but it's going to come down to the guys next to them, and then the linebackers, Dontavius Jackson especially. How's he going to play in this game? So you're going to need those linebackers to step up big in the first half to really help out that defensive line.
Yeah, and this is an offensive line for Clemson who at times has been pretty undisciplined this season. I believe they gave up 5 false start penalties last week against North Carolina. They're replacing a couple starters in the offensive line who were extremely successful at Clemson and had a lot of experience. And don't get me wrong, Clemson is still extremely talented up front on the offensive line and extremely, capable of playing at a very high level. They just got a few things to work on, but Florida State this is really just a really dominant front three when you're looking at Durden, Cooper, and Marvin Wilson, and they're starting to really play and play to the level that people thought that they could, and they're playing at the level that the coaching staff sort of foresaw, and which was one of the reasons going to that 3-4 was a big deal. Was all 3 of those guys on the field at the same time is huge. Marvin Wilson is having one of the best years that a defensive tackle has ever had at Florida State. Marvin Wilson is a guy who is just dominant and unblockable at times, and plays with such a high energy level, which is huge. Robert Cooper is an immovable object. When he decides that he wants to put his feet in the ground and not move, then it's going to be really hard to move that guy, which is a big deal. Blocking, taking up blocks, and Etienne's a really special back, and so that's going to help out the linebackers. It's on them to fill those gaps, which they have not done a good job of at all. But ever since that Boise State game, well, really since the Virginia game, Florida State's deep line has really played a lot more disciplined. And Durden is a guy at times, too, who just is a dominant force. And so Clemson definitely has their work cut out for them against those front three. Clemson's going to have to play with great technique and fundamentals. They're going to have to get their pad level low to get leverage on those guys, which is something that did not do a great job of last week against North Carolina. So I think Florida State, has a test, but this is one of those position battles that I think Florida State has maybe not the edge in, but that I feel most comfortable in saying Florida State can handle their business when just looking at those front three versus that Clemson offensive line.
Yeah, no, I think that you previewed it very well. Let me give you a clap for that. I think that was pretty good. That was pretty damn good. Just snap on him like that. Damn. All right. No, I agree with a lot. I mean, pretty much what he said. I can't really say much. All right, Fisher had to go run. He's got some school stuff to handle, but he gives his prediction at the end, so we don't have to worry about that. But it's just me and Dustin kind of rolling through this Clemson quick preview. I know we talked already a lot about it, but we're going to run through a couple of the hot topics, and I have a question for Dustin too in here. But so Florida State will be facing Clemson at 3:30 in Death Valley on ABC. Your starting quarterback will be James Blackman. Alex Hornibrook is expected to get some snaps. Janarius Robinson is out for the first half after a targeting call last week against NC State. So yeah, let's jump right into it. Starting off, Tanner Muse, one of their best defensive backs for Clemson, is expected to play, but he's dealing with coming back from a strained calf, something to keep an eye on to start the game. And see if he's fully ready to roll. But other than that, Clemson's kind of bringing a fully healthy team to the squad or to this game. And I want to get your opinion here, Dustin. What are the keys to just keeping this game close? What keeps this team, Florida State, in it to where you're going into the third and fourth quarter that Florida State is playing with the Clemson Tigers?
Yeah, I mean, two of the biggest keys to me coming into this game is Florida State hitting on big plays and at the same time limiting Clemson from their own big plays, and then winning the turnover battle. And that injury you just mentioned could be crucial. Tanner Muse in the back end, if he's not fully healthy back there, Florida State could really take advantage with an elite wide receiving core down the field, and with Blackman back there, the chances for those big plays only rises. So really, Florida State, they're going to need Clemson. I kind of mentioned it a little bit ago, but they're going to need Clemson to have a few miscues on the defense, miss a few assignments that let Florida State get some big plays down the field, maybe even a long touchdown or two. And then on defense, this unit's going to have to be extremely focused on Trevor Lawrence, T. Higgins, and Travis Etienne, three guys that can really just break a game open at any point in time. So this defense is going to have to be focused for 60 full minutes on Saturday. And then also you have the turnover battle. Florida State's been pretty good about keeping the ball this season, and on defense, they've done a much better job of taking it away from their opponents or actually recovering fumbles. Clemson comes into this game with a -1 turnover margin. So you look at if Florida State takes the ball away from Clemson 2 or 3 times, the offense doesn't turn the ball over, you could be looking at a completely different ball game depending on where those turnovers happen. If Florida State gets good field position, gets a few easy scores, that only helps their chances moving forward in this game.
And I want to get to, Florida State's defense has been improving and improving. I think it's time that we, go and notice Jim Lovett is making a pretty big impact on this defense. Harlan Barnett is still the defensive coordinator, but your senior defensive analyst with Jim Lovett coming from Oregon, close friends with Willie Taggart. He's coming in, putting guys in right areas, which we've seen. I think we have all agreed that we liked where Leonard Warner has been moved. And I think keeping him inside there has worked out really well, and they've seen some improvement with hitting the gaps correctly. But this goes to here, and I've got a question for you, Dustin, and I'll probably note on it also. Can this defense keep its momentum and bring it against Trevor Lawrence and that Tigers offense on Saturday at 3:30?
It can. I'm just not totally convinced that it will. Those injuries on the ends to Joshua Kando, that's huge. And then also you have Robinson sitting out that first half. So, I mean, really two of your better pass rushers so far this season aren't going to be there. And then you also have Woodby out, who had been moved up to the line of scrimmage. So
I get like, who would you look to at that defensive end spot that could play a role in that factor?
it's tough because, I mean, really you don't have a lot of experience across the roster. Last season, a true freshman that really impressed me at defensive end was Dennis Briggs. So I'd be really excited to see if I know he's been playing inside more this season, but I'd be excited to see if Florida State kind of flex him out there to that edge role and see what he has in him. He's more of an athletic type of defensive lineman. He's not as big of a body as a Corey Durden or Marvin Wilson, so he still has that build where he could be an edge defender, and I'd be excited to see him in that role. Obviously, this is a big game to thrust him into something like that, but Florida State, frankly, needs someone to step up at that position.
Yeah, they do. And it's tough for them. Of course, this is the Clemson game. This is by far probably the biggest game that Florida State will face unless Florida just keeps on rolling. But you lose, of course, Denarius Robinson in the first half, which will be crucial. And then, of course, you lose Joshua Kando throughout the rest of the season due to an injury. But you're also supposed to have Xavier Peters, which we were very high on. I believe me and you were, Dustin, on Xavier Peters coming in. I mean, he's an athlete. He was an athletic freak. And now he's with Kentucky, and it didn't really work out here with FSU. And it was more family related, I think. But you kind of had some depth rolling there. But this is time for younger guys if they want to get their playing time and show what they're worth. And they would probably, if they had a decent game, they would play throughout the rest of the season. But you got to have some young guys step up. And I was pretty high on also Briggs too. I watched him during the game while it was happening. I was like, whoa, who is that guy? There's going to have to be some young guys that step up and be able to hold the ground until Janarius Robinson can get back into the game, because Dabo Swinney noted on it that, hey, 11 is a tough guy to stop. And I think that's a very good thing for Janarius Robinson. One of the things coming in from high school was, he just needed some coaching and he'd be good. And it's kind of been a slow process for him. But he is a stupid, athletic monster. He's ridiculous if you ever stand next to him. He's ridiculously huge. But he's stepping into that top defensive end role for this team. And we'll see, if that second half of this game is still close, how much of he plays a factor for Florida State defense and if he can wreak havoc. On to my next question for you, and what I'll actually go ahead and do now after I ask this, I'm going to roll a clip from Dabo Swinney where he talks about Cam Akers. But I want to ask you, Dustin, real quick, who needs to have a bigger day for Florida State on offense? Running back Cam Akers or wide receiver Tamarion Terry?
And then you got to be physical because, again, this is a very committed team to running it and a very committed back who's you better have your big boy pads on because he's going to keep coming. So got a lot of respect for how he plays. He's taken a lot of hits. He's had a lot of carries. He got a bunch of carries, and he's a physical guy. So you better match that mindset or he'll bloody your nose.
I think it's important for Cam Akers to have a big day, but honestly, it's way more crucial for Tamarion Terry and that wide receiving core to have an even bigger day. And the reason why I feel like Florida State hasn't really broken out a lot of big plays in the running game so far this season. Not saying that's the blame on Cam Akers or anything. He's just that grinding type of back. He has a propensity to get first downs, and so far this season, that's exactly what he's done. He's fought for first downs. I think so far this season, Akers' longest run was that 41-yard scamper against NC State. So I really just feel like if you have Tamorion Terry, catching 8 passes for something like 150, 200 yards, that means Florida State's offense was making big plays down the field against Clemson. And, that's something I mentioned as a key to this game. They're going to have to connect on those big plays. So Tamorion Terry or another wide receiver or a couple wide receivers are going to need to have big days against the Tigers.
I do agree with your pick here, too. I think I go with Tamorion Terry also. Got to have some deep threat. Got to have some big plays in order to stay in this game. Tamorion Terry is a special talent. And I've been trying to stress this, and I think anybody that covers Florida State would, and even if they're fans, if Tamorion Terry is one-on-one, I really don't care that much who the DB is. He's done it before last season. He makes catches where he probably shouldn't, but he still does. He makes about 90% of them over his defenders. If that is an option for whoever quarterback is in, but I'm going to go, of course, with James Blackman here. This has got to be where he's utilized. And I think that's what they'll do. They'll try to give him some separation, try to give him some one-on-one opportunities. And I think James Blackman will have to take advantage of that as much as they can if they can't get the running game going. Either, I don't think they should give a damn even if the running game's working or not. Take the shots while you got it there. I think Tamorion Terry is hungry for it. He came off a very solid game last weekend or 2 weeks ago. I think Tamorion Terry is that guy that you need to have a bigger day out of, even out of Cam Akers, because I think Cam Akers will do his thing. Got to see Tamorion Terry excel against the Clemson defense. I'm going to get through a couple quotes here from Dabo Swinney, Clemson's head coach, talking about Florida State. He says, Florida State is easily the most talented team that we have played to this point on paper and roster, and they're getting better. Should probably be 5-0. Probably pretty disappointed in what happened against Boise State. Really just kind of blew it after being up 30-13 in the third quarter. Same thing at Virginia. They had a chance up there. They are truly 2 or 3 plays from being 5-0. They have started to create an identity, and they are playing better together. And, I was kind of thinking back at what Dabo Swinney and a lot of other coaches were saying last year, and even this offseason, they were like, Florida State, has shown signs of where they can show really nice potential. And it's just taking patience. It takes a while. And I think a lot of coaches understand, and they understand for Willie Taggart too, that, it takes a little bit of time of getting the clicks working all together. And this team can actually, if they play together, they kind of get some guys out of the program that, are causing some dragging issues for the team. Things get better, and just understanding the offense and how the new coaches are at Florida State. It'll take time, but I think Dabo Swinney is really trying to tell you right now is that Florida State is starting to pick up a little bit of steam here. They're starting to click a little bit, and Dabo's not wanting to be, of course, that team, and nobody's expecting him to be, but he doesn't want to be that team to find out that Florida State is clicking on more cylinders than they've been in a few years. He doesn't want to be that team. But I just wanted to give my reaction to what he was kind of talking about there. I don't know if you wanted to speak on it too, Dustin.
Yeah, really, I agree with Dabo. I think Florida State is probably kicking itself a little bit. The Seminoles definitely have the chance to be 5-0 right now if they would have finished those games against Boise State and Virginia like they should have. But, you can't dwell on the past. Since then, obviously, the program has taken some obvious steps forward, and they've just got to continue taking those incremental steps against Clemson. Even if Florida State doesn't come out with a win on Saturday, it's about how that game is played rather than the final result. Will Florida State completely look outclassed, or will they look like they can actually compete with the defending national champions.
All right. So who's going to predict Florida State to upset Clemson? Do you want to go first, Fisher?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and give my score prediction. I feel actually pretty good about it. I actually have Clemson winning 41-10 is the score that I see. I actually think it could be I think it could be.
My God.
Wow. You were just talking earlier about, well, I mean, that's just a defensive line, but I guess there's a lot of other position groups. But damn.
No.
Wasn't expecting that.
41-10 is the score that I see, which is pretty close to the spread. That's a 31-point difference, and I think the spread is 27 right now. So I feel like I'm pretty on point with kind of what the experts are saying.
What do you think the main problem is going to be?
I just don't think the offensive line can block. I actually think the first half is going to watchable, but I just don't think that offensive line can compete with Clemson's defensive front. I mean, giving up 8 sacks to NC State, I know that, again, that was circumstantial, and Florida State ended up putting up 31 points against them, but I just don't see how this offensive line can compete with that defensive front. It's just a matter of like physics, not being able to block those guys, and who knows? I hope they surprise me, but 41-10 is kind of what I see happening on Saturday.
Yeah, well, if Fisher was right, that would mean I'm losing money since I took Florida State plus 27. So
it's all about the money now with Dustin Lewis, by the way.
Not feeling that one at all. But I also think Clemson's going to score 41 points in this game. I have Clemson coming out on top 41-20. That's something I've kind of been feeling since last week. Okay. And like Fisher said, I really think the first half is going to be competitive. Florida State's going to be in the game. But in the second half, Clemson's got the heart of a champion. All right.
Golly. Jeez. I haven't even thought about this prediction because I wanted to take it organically, naturally, just give it to me. I do think that Denarius Robinson missing out on the first half sucks a lot. I mean, I think he would bring a lot of momentum for that defense, and bringing a sack on Trevor Lawrence might help a lot. I do think a fully rested defensive line for Florida State does help kind of settle that offense down as a powerhouse. I'm not thinking they score that much on Florida State. I think Clemson will score 34. I got Clemson 34, Florida State 17. And if that's the score, then I think Florida State, I don't think fans will be too, discouraged by it. I just think, I do think Florida State's offensive line is going to have a tough time with that deep line. I mean, it's Clemson. They always have a well-respected guys that are usually first-round talent. Sometimes two go to the first round from just their defensive line unit, which is ridiculous. I'm going to predict Florida State 17, Clemson 34. And I'm going to stick with it. So, but now if we're all wrong, then we need to have something. We should probably do like 50 push-ups while we're recording or something. We'll let you do those, Dustin.
Yeesh.
I know you don't want to. I think that will do it for the end of the podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. I know this was jam-packed with a lot of stuff and the Q&A and talking about some hot topics and whatnot. But as always, you can listen to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, SoundCloud, and now YouTube. Make sure you guys go subscribe over there. Every podcast is going to be available on there once we upload them to our provider, and it'll be available for you guys to listen to immediately. We appreciate all of the listens that we've been bringing in. We hope we can continue to grow. If you're on iTunes, if you rate us 5 stars, it really helps a lot. If you're on the Apple Podcast app, if you would rate us 5 stars, even leave a review and tell us what you like about it. It would really mean a lot. It helps us grow in listens, and we're really wanting to keep on doing these as much as we can, and it only gives us a lot more motivation when you guys are listening in, and the growth always helps. So we appreciate you guys so much, and it means a lot to us. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the game this weekend. It should be pretty interesting. Florida State is facing Clemson on ABC 3:30, and we hope to see you or talk to you guys in the next podcast recapping this game.